Okay. Uh, Cleaned my kitchen over the last week. Kinda. Call it clean. Whew. Let's put it this way. I mean, I'm not done yet. I've been trying to clean up my life over the last week again. But I've talked a lot before about like drinking and smoking and all that, and how at times that might be actually something that kind of keeps you alive. If it keeps the demons at bay, so to speak. Sometimes passing out drunk is better than being sober, awake. Sometimes. But I've taken it too far. So, anyway, what I was going to say was, yeah, my, I don't know if you can see it, but my toilet, refrigerator, and both my sinks looked about like my stove still does this morning. But anyway, I wanted to, yeah, I was in the, I was in the middle of making my supper, and I got the ingredients. This is basically, I'm gonna make this as short as possible. I've been putting off making this video for a couple years. Crazy, simplest thing, but it's always like if you see my other stuff, it's like, well, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to do this, I want to do that. One of the things I wanted to do was like, if you've seen some of my overlap videos or like my Snoop Dogg Disney movie Brave overlap, I wanted to do that type of thing with there's like a kind of famous Dick Gregory speech from it was like the Black Caucus, or the not the Black Caucus, like the state of Black America from years back, and I was going to overlap that with the Cyndi Lauper video at the beginning of Goonies, the extended version. I may still do that. I wanted to do that with this. I was also thinking about like juicing apples and oranges, and then putting my Darth Vader balloon to the top to let the gases fill it up. Why do I think of these things? I don't know. But that's like one of the things, like there's all these things you could do. There's all these like creative things, like good, bad, or indifferent, that you could do, and like sometimes you just gotta get right to the meat of the matter, and that's what this week's been about. My post 2 videos back, I was bragging about how well I was doing with drinking less. Well, let's just say the next 3 days were hell on earth for me, because I didn't stop when the video stopped. And that finally kind of woke me up. But it's still hard. So I've been getting back into my Dr. Sebi diet. And this isn't 100% Dr. Sebi because I'm using beets. This is a kvass recipe, so to speak. Something I came upon, I've talked about before, but it's what I've found, if it works. Of the times I've done it, it hasn't always worked, but most of the time it did. There's some minor variations this time, so I'm not sure. I'll let you know, but it's the most effective thing that I've found for cleaning out like the lower intestine. And I also think that I've had since a child like this. I've talked about the hemorrhaging I had lately, or the herniation, but I think I have like in somewhere in my back here, because I always have back pain, and I do all these things to try to cure my back pain. And what I found was that there are a number of times, and there's only one time when it didn't involve this recipe. There was one other time where all of a sudden I felt this clearness in my bowels that I'd never felt before, and my back pain went away instantly. So I think there's something in my intestines pushing on my organs and pushing on one of my vertebrae. I don't know, but it's happened, you know. I mean, it happened every time. I think I have like a pocket. You know, they talk about how John Wayne, when he died, had like 20 pounds or something of fecal matter dried in his intestines. And I'm sure I have plenty of that. But I also think I have like this pocket, almost like an appendix of, like, that's not an appendix, like, of crap. And we should all talk about crap more. People who study crap are some of the most important people in the world. And that goes back thousands of years, not just the scientists of today, you know. But anyway, this was effective, and it was like God's hand that guided me, or, you know, like this intuition when I first made it. It was before I had my big interaction with the prophets. They came about about 5 years ago. And there was a certain intuition I had then that was stronger because I didn't know what I learned after. And when I learned what I learned after, it just crushed me. I couldn't believe it. And they say you can't handle the truth, they ain't joking. But anyway, I'm trying to recapture that intuition and that care that I'd had for myself. Since then, it's just been trying to get through every day by any means necessary. And I actually was sober for like 2 years sober. Didn't drink, didn't puff, but it was like coffee and cigarettes all day, every day, all night. And I, in this raging pain, I have this pain that's on this side of my face from like right here to right here, and really bad right here. Sometimes I wonder if I have Lyme disease. When this started was about the same time I did get a tick bite with a little circle on it. I ain't got insurance, I can't go to the doctor. I don't necessarily trust the entirety of the medical profession, though I know there's great medical people out there, you know. But it's kind of a roll of the dice. And what did they do 100 years ago? What did they do 1,000 years ago? 2,000 years ago? It's like you had to really take matters into your own hands, or you did. I'm trying to do that again. Anyway, I've already made this story too long, so here's my recipe. So this right here, these are soaking garbanzo beans, but what it was a few days back, I soaked some spelt, I don't know, what are they called, spelt berries, about 1 cup of spelt berries to about, they don't expand as much as garbanzo beans, so like 1 cup of spelt beans to like maybe 2.5 cups of water. I soaked those for a couple days, and then I cooked the spelt, but I drained off the soak water and so I drained off the soak water into here. I added a little more water, put in garbanzo beans. Normally I'd use a cup. I didn't have a cup. It's maybe a half a cup. And these have soaked for a couple days. I put it in the fridge because they were, if you soak garbanzo beans for like a day, you'll get like this sweetness in the water. But like 2 days, it starts to go a little cheddary. So these have already hit the cheddar stage. I wasn't going to make this video today, so I added some maple syrup and stirred it up, hoping that the oxygen in the sugar would give rise to more yeast that might kind of eat up some of that bacteria a little bit. Not that it's even necessarily a bad bacteria, but if it were a perfect world, what I would have done was soak the spelt and the garbanzo beans one day in separate. This is a 2-quart ball jar. I would have taken two separate ball jars and soaked a cup of each, a cup of spelt, a cup of garbanzo beans, 3 cups of water in each, maybe a little less in the spelt. Would have soaked them. Then the next day, 24 hours, I would have drained them off, to cook those later, but I'm using the soak water. So, anyway, I'll drain this off, and yeah, I did this to try to create like a little, air vent, so that it could get oxygen, and then I realized, like, I just got to do this today. So, anyway, a couple moths got in there. Now I'm just going to put these back in the fridge, cook them tomorrow, maybe the next day. Now again, in a perfect world, and especially if it were spring, what I'd do is I'd put in about a fist worth, like a tight fist's worth of fresh sour clover, which is the clover that has leaves in 3 heart shapes. It's like 3 hearts. Beautiful. And it's sour. So if you see something growing on the ground that looks like 3 hearts, a very fresh green, it's a very fresh green. And if you just chew one of the leaves and it tastes sour, I'd recommend looking that up online before you did it, just to make sure you had the right thing. But sour clover, awesome, full of vitamin C, but the citrusy sourness comes from the citric acid, I believe, because we always associate vitamin C with being sour, but it's not. Red peppers have more vitamin C than an orange. So yeah, I'd take about a fist worth of that and a fist worth of ground ivy, which is not an appetizing. It's part of the mint family. Doesn't taste like mint at all. It almost has like a little bit of a pea-ish, like cat pea-ish, but not quite. It's this really funky, pungent flavor, smell. Definitely look that up online too. It has square roots, and yeah, this is a grassroots bowel movement. But anyway, there's all kinds of stuff you can look up on ground ivy and sour clover and their medicinal benefits and health benefits and so on. Plus, it's free, grows everywhere, and there's all different types kind of ground ivy. They have little purple flowers. The sour clover has these little yellow flowers. I'll talk more about this later. Anyway, I picked some a couple months ago, even though the ground ivy's actually probably still alive under the snow outside. It was still growing. Last week it was still growing fine. It just snowed like fucking 2 feet in a day. But anyway, yeah, then I'd take that water, soak that for a day. Then I'd take that water and put all my other ingredients in it. I'm doing it different today. But anyway, we have our spelt, and I recommend Bob's Red Mill over organic spelt that you buy bulk, only because the organic spelt I bought is like really woody. Like when you try to cook it and actually eat it, it's just like ugh. But Bob's Red Mill is a really great consistency, works good for this recipe. I prefer organic bulk garbanzo beans, but they're hard to find for me right now because of COVID-19. They've closed off a lot of the bulk products and so on, and it's just kind of a hassle. And I had some Bob's Red Mill garbanzo beans, which are still good, so that's what I used. But anyway, so I got that liquid here. Like I said, normally I'd add my ground ivy and my sour clover beforehand. I'm going to do it after because it's dried, because the stuff I got's dried, because I picked it a month ago. Serendipitous that it's a little bird nesty. It's all mashed together, it's both together. I also have a couple twigs of yarrow, which also just, all this stuff just grows out kind of in my driveway. But yarrow looks a little like a squirrel's tail, has medicinal properties. I know you don't want to overdo it with yarrow. I forget why. I also know they used to use it before they used hops in beers, until there was like some law written, I think in Germany, I can't remember, but there was some law written saying only hops can be used. But to my understanding, hops ain't really good for you. And you know, yarrow is, and those old school groups. Speaking of which, it's the 1 year anniversary of the Star Force, or Space Force, who were just renamed by Pence today as the Guardians. Can't make this shit up. But I guess. So I got beets. If they're organic, sometimes I don't peel them. I got ginger. This juicer, one of my ex-girlfriends bought it for me. I never would have bought it myself. So, thank you. Sorry I was a jerk. It's a juicer, but I don't have the juicing part in, I just have the grinding part in. I'm gonna pause this while I grind all this stuff up, but and I'm just gonna like throw this in intermittently. Throw about about that much in of the ginger. Maybe just a little more. But anyway, what's supposed to be special about this juicer is that, as opposed to a blender, is like a blender will kill the enzymes, and I feel like that's an important part of the process. And I've also talked before about how when this thing is done, if it works, you got to get it right, just right. It's somewhere between 2 and 3.5 days, depending on the temperature. And I guess other factors, but somewhere between 2 and 3.5 days. The earthiness of the beets is quelled, and it takes on a salty taste, but not quite like salt. Not quite like table salt, which is what, sodium chloride. It takes on a little bit more like a salt substitute, like a potassium chloride, which I know is one of the cell salts, and I forget which one. But it's like a natural way from vegetables to make a salt, without salt, from vegetables. And I'm super interested in that because I love salt. And that's one thing I've cut out this week. Haven't eaten any salt, except for I did eat a few little vegetarian avocado sushis that had some seaweed. Figured the iodine was good. I'm trying to get back into this stuff because I want to start looking past just surviving through the day of having been shocked by. I'm not just talking about regular conspiracy stuff, I'm talking about. It ain't easy. Oh yeah, this is a seed pod of wild sour clover. In nature or whatever, if you touch one, they're very small, but if you touch one, their seeds are about the size of a grain of sand. And if you touch one of the seed pods, they just, barely even tap it, they poof, and all these little minuscule seeds go pew. Anyway, yeah, so in a few days, this will be ready if it works. And it will take on a little, it's already, like the juice is already a little bit magenta. Okay, I guess this is going to be 2 videos. I accidentally stopped it when I was trying to show. How the juice is already a little magenta. Boy, I wish that hadn't happened. Maybe I can put them together in video editor. But after a few days, it just gets a little more magenta. It seems to. Or maybe it's just my psychology, I don't know. And if it goes wrong, it turns rusty. So, yeah, I'm going to pause this, grind this all up, give you a look, and call it macaroni. Okay, so I have it all ground up here. I did end up adding quite a bit more ginger. Like I said, I had my other attachment in, but the juicer port still leaks some. I also forgot to mention that sometimes too I do add a little bit of maple syrup into the perfect world version of the soaking of sour clover and ground ivy. The idea, I guess, is, well, one, I guess the benefits of maple syrup, and also to give that little bit of immediate sugar to encourage the yeast. talked about all that stuff other times. I just really wanted to get this today. Because I didn't want this to go another day. And it might have already gone too long, I don't know. But all of this, especially with the ginger and all that, because I think it's like the potassium. Oh yeah, and then also today I'm going to add a little bit of lime, because I don't know how drying the sour clover affected the citric acid. And one of the other things I think that might occur in this mixture is what is it? Potassium citrate. But whatever it is, I mean, I've taken everything. And when it comes out right, and as soon as that earthiness dies a little, it's a little sweeter. Not necessarily sweeter, it's just the earthiness dies, so maybe the sweetness you can taste more. And a little bit, it has this salty, almost like a celeriness to it, but like a discernible saltiness. But it tastes more like a salt substitute, or not quite. And I know like I believe it's I looked this up years ago, so I'm really just going off memory, so I'm probably getting some stuff wrong, but I believe it's the garbanzo beans, which are high in potassium. And of course I use less garbanzo beans this time, so that effect may not happen. But I'm going to drink it either way, because I could use the iron, especially as a vegan. But yeah, so then just slop it all together. Top it off. Again, normally I don't do this, but and I'll stir it probably in the morning. I'll stir it again tomorrow night, the next morning, and then I'm assuming 2 nights from now it might be just right, or it might take another day, and then you got to get it quick, because whatever happens in that sweet moment, it's good for a pretty short window of time, maybe a day. So I always just drink it, but I've let it go too far as well, Again, beets aren't Sebi approved, but I found this and it works for me. So there should be quite a bit of oxygen in there, encouraging the yeast. So we want to encourage the yeast, so there will be bacteria growth and all that, beneficial bacteria and all that. Then take a coffee filter. Probably don't even really need this because it's winter and there's like no bugs around and less fruit flies. Fruit flies don't really bug me that much for like a 2 or 3 day ferment anyway. They're not really gonna do a lot of harm. Might give you some additional B6. Oh yeah, and with picking those outside vegetables, I tend not to wash them because that has bug poop outside on plants has B6. That's why I guess people are B6 deficient. A vegan, one of my old vegan friends told me that. She wasn't my friend because of that. She was one of my old friends' ex-girlfriends, really beautiful person. And she was a good friend, I miss her, but yeah, she'd said that that's one of the reasons why people are like B, or maybe it's not even B6, but vitamin B. That people are vitamin B deficient because they don't eat just like right out of the earth, so to speak, and it's all the bug poop, microscopic bugs, bigger bugs. It's all the bug poop that gives vitamin B to plants. Anyway, so I put this on so that it still has air, and then I put the top on just loosely. I might just leave it off because there aren't any bugs. Well, there's bugs, but if I open my door, 1,000 bugs aren't going to fly in here or whatever. Not that it would even necessarily matter. Let that set. When it's all done, I'll strain it, and anyway, I'll give you an update. But it's in the spirit of trial and error, and it's in the spirit of it's the age where we can look anything up on our phone. It's in the age where authority will be based on the truth, and now we have more access to the truth. But not just the truth of like that type of information, but you know, the big truth. And finding ways to connect spiritually, physically, socially. And I'm totally closed off from people now. But maybe someday I can contribute. And that's why I do everything I do, silly as it is. It's in the hopes that some needle in the haystack or some sniper kill shot of information that I have may reach someone someday. And also, this video is about the fact that spirituality for a long time has had a lot to do with the pooper. A lot of people know that, but it really needs to be common knowledge for everybody. Thanks for listening. And thanks, prophets. In general, and for encouraging me in incidences over the last 30 years, built up to me deciding, yes, I'm going to do this today and not tomorrow. Sounds crazy. But maybe you know what I mean, and maybe if you don't, you will. And whatever trials you've had, are having, or will have, I hope you have the strength and peace and comfort and tenacity to get through it.